Hey people, it is Tuesday, October the 5th, and the time is 3:38 in the afternoon, and the temperature is 19 degrees Celsius. And I'm here in my hometown of North Bay, Ontario, at a suburban power center in the northwest part of the city, in a neighborhood known as Thibault Terrace. And I'll be walking from here to downtown North Bay. I thought it would be interesting to walk from the suburbs to the downtown, all in one video, since North Bay is a small enough city that you can do that without taking hours. So as you may know, I've been here visiting for a few days. I'm heading back to Toronto tomorrow. So this is probably my last pre-recorded video in North Bay. I have done about 4 or 5 others before this one. But they were mostly in the downtown area and the old core of the city. So I thought I'd switch it up and do a video out in the suburban part of town. And there's a very large airplane landing over there. The North Bay Airport is up on top of the escarpment, which I'm pointing my camera towards right now. You can see all the leaves are turning colors here already. So this big power center did not exist when I lived here. It was built after I moved away. And I moved away in 2010. I think it was built kind of right after I moved, really. But this Canadian Tire store was here, and I'm very familiar with that because I used to work there. When I worked at the Canadian Tire, all this was just vacant land. So things have certainly changed around here in the time I've been gone. And over there you can see the Highway 11-17 bypass, although over there it's only Highway 17. It converges with Highway 11 further up. And that's the Trans-Canada Highway. I kind of have to remind myself that some of the cars around here might not be used to a guy wandering around with a camera. It's obviously not the most pedestrian friendly area to be walking around in. And I think up here on Mckeown Avenue there are at least a sidewalk. I mean, every city has areas like this if you get further enough away from the downtown. Toronto definitely has more than its fair share of suburban sprawl burbs all around the city. And lots of them within the city limits in the post-war areas such as Scarborough and parts of North York and Etobicoke. So now we're on Mckeown Avenue. And there you can see the escarpment looming in the background there. That's actually a very nice feature here in North Bay, a nice natural feature to look at, especially in the fall when it's all colorful. And it does get rather high in some places, further down. When I was a kid, we used to walk trails up on top of the escarpment and look down and have awesome views of the city. And there was awesome sledding hills. And the Hampton Inn. And here's more shopping plaza, fast food type stuff. There's the sub place I see that used to be located on Algonquin Avenue, which is the street we're headed towards right now, but they relocated to this plaza sometime after I left. And they're sort of a highly regarded, long-standing business, and they do have very good subs, from what I remember. I think a lot of people consider them the best subs in town. I want to cross to the other side, but I'm not sure if that's doable or not. Oh, okay, see, just when I was about to go. Well, I guess I don't have to cross to the other side. There's Boston Pizza. And it feels quite hot right now, not gonna lie. The sun is beating on my back, and it makes it feel a lot hotter than 19 degrees. So we're approaching Algonquin Avenue, which also doubles as Highway 11 as it heads out of the city. And going that way is going north, so that'll take you up into the further expanses of northern Ontario. North Bay is considered the gateway to northern Ontario, so this is where either northern Ontario begins or southern Ontario begins, depending on which direction you're going. But most people consider North Bay to be a northern Ontario city and not a southern Ontario city, even though it's sort of right on the boundary, the geographic boundary. Lots of transport trucks that take this route. And there's a North Bay Transit bus. It's heading towards downtown. And there's looking north, Can't really make out the highway, but it does cut a sort of a trench through the escarpment as it heads north. And there's a runaway truck ramp that they built there because the hill coming down is quite a long and steep incline, and in the past there were a number of incidents where transport trucks lost their brakes and could not stop at this intersection and just barreled right through it, sometimes resulting in accidents, and I'm not sure if there were any deaths, but it happened on more than one occasion. So they built a truck ramp that if a truck found itself in that situation, there was a lane that the truck could veer into full of large boulders, or not large boulders, but large stones, I guess you could say, that the truck would roll into, and the rocks would create enough resistance and friction to slow the truck down. I don't know if I explained that very well, but I think there's a YouTube video about it. So now we're heading south on Algonquin Avenue towards downtown. I was just curious to see what that notice was about. You can get another look at the escarpment. And some of these developments are new. This was not here before I left town. I think this is the only freestanding Starbucks in the city. And there's a cannabis store. I've noticed a number of those around town. And I think there's another one just up ahead here too. And a Taco Bell. That's also new. I remember there being lots of complaints when I was living in the city. Why doesn't North Bay have a Taco Bell? People seem to think that a Taco Bell was the answer to all their dreams. And lo and behold, after I left, they finally did put in a Taco Bell, and there it is over there. And I wonder if this is a future development site here. There's a Sobeys grocery store. And here's another pot shop. See Giant Tiger, that's also new. New to me anyway. This Harvey's has been here forever. I used to come here all the time to get veggie burgers when they were one of the only places in town where you could get a veggie burger. I think things have changed in that respect. Now I know there's a few full-fledged vegetarian restaurants in town. There certainly weren't any when I lived here. And over there, Dollarama, Party City. I see a Home Sense, that's also a new addition. And a Staples, and the Staples was there for at least 20 years. Maybe closer to 30. There we go, Montana's. As you can see, there's lots of traffic around here. This is where the highways sort of converge. This is Highway 11, as I mentioned, and Highway 17 going this way. And going this way, Highway 11 and 17 are combined. All the Highway 11 traffic turns left here, so that's why I see this long lineup. Because heading straight is just a city street into downtown. So if you want to bypass the downtown, this is the way you do it. This Highway 1117 bypass. Everyone in town just calls it the bypass. And I think this sign here will clarify. So if you want to go to Toronto or Ottawa, you go that way. If you want to go to Sudbury, you go that way. If you want to go to Timmins and other points north, you go this way. Down the bypass, and down there you can see where the escarpment gets a little taller way down in the distance there. So now we're just on Algonquin Avenue as it goes into downtown as a regular city street, not as part of any highway. And we're still in a sort of suburbanish part of town here. Things will kind of take a slightly more older urban look up ahead, although urban is, debatable in a city the size of North Bay. I'd say it's urban. I mean, it's not rural. I think it meets the qualifications for urban by most people's standards. It's just small. You can be small and urban. If I haven't mentioned, the city of North Bay has about 52,000 people or so. But if you include the surrounding suburban and rural areas that are part of the census agglomeration, I think it has more like 70,000 people in the area. And there's our third pot shop. And that restaurant wasn't there when I lived here. And this is the Medical Arts Building. They reclad this after I moved away. It used to be just brown brick, and it looked a lot nicer. Now it looks pretty gaudy with this sort of stucco gray kind of color scheme they got going here. I think they sort of ruined the look of the building. So up here is Norwood Avenue. It changes its name to Lansdowne on the other side, but after we cross this, we'll cross into what is considered the core of North Bay. At one time, everything north of this intersection was part of Whitfield Township, which was not part of the city of North Bay. But then in 1968, the two townships surrounding the old city of North Bay amalgamated with the city and expanded its borders greatly. So at one time, this was the city limits of North Bay, like over 50 years ago. And you can kind of tell because things take a sudden turn towards a more traditional looking sort of built up town with old houses kind of close together. It's sort of like crossing from North York into Old Toronto before North York amalgamated with the other boroughs to form the new megacity of Toronto. The same thing happened in North Bay in 1968, although on a small, far smaller mini version. The two townships surrounding North Bay amalgamated with the city and formed the megacity of North Bay. Hey! Someone was shouting hello. I think some people might be surprised to see me wandering around town. And surprisingly, the closer we get to downtown, the less traffic there is. I guess it's not that surprising. I mean, the highways that we walked along are basically all the traffic through town goes on those. I couldn't really tell who that was who shouted hi to me though. So if they do end up watching this video, maybe drop a comment and say, hey, that was me, Ken. And you can see Lake Nipissing now. guess I can go. Maybe I spoke too soon about the traffic. There seems to be quite a lot of it now. And there you can see downtown down there. See a few buildings popping up. North Bay doesn't really have much in the way of tall buildings, but it does have a few that are tallish. I mean, mid-rise more than high-rise. I think the tallest is about 11 stories. So now we're heading down the hill into downtown. There used to be a big hospital up here, kind of overlooking the city, but it was demolished when they built a new hospital out on the outskirts of the city, which really bummed me out because it was an awesome old building. I mean, it was old and outdated and all that, but it was a big, imposing building that you could see for miles around because it was perched so high up. Made it seem like it was a lot taller than it really was. And there was a second old hospital in the same area that was also torn down. They tore down both of the old hospitals in town and built a new sprawling hospital complex on the outskirts. So those two big buildings are no longer part of the North Bay skyline. They used to be. And there's still vacant lots to this day, even though they were torn down like 10 years ago. But there is a proposal now to build a senior citizens retirement complex up there on the lot where St. Joseph's Hospital used to be. And here's Algonquin Secondary School. This is a French public high school. (1930). Of course, it was once known as the North Bay Vocational School. At one time there were 5 high schools in the city when I was in high school. There was my high school, Chippewa Secondary, then there was Woodfield Secondary, there was this one, Algonquin, and there was West Ferris down in the south end of the city in the neighborhood known as West Ferris, which was one of those townships I was talking about earlier that amalgamated with the city. And I think all the high school buildings are still standing. I know another new high school was built, But my old high school no longer functions as just a high school. I think it has students in grades 7 and 8 now as well. When I was there, it was just grades 9 through 13 at the time. And I think Whitfield High School is slated to be closed, or if it hasn't already. Scholar Hall is still there. That's a very large, imposing old high school. It's like 5 stories, because it used to house students who would live there full time. It's a Catholic high school. So it had rooms, residences. I was looking back up the hill. And here's the backside of the Pro Cathedral. I think this is the rectory, if that's the proper term. There's a nice older apartment building over there. I've been in that building. I had some friends who lived in there. See if I can get a good look at the front of the cathedral. I showed this in another video I recorded earlier, but you can't just walk by here and not show it, you know. There we go, Pro Cathedral. And I pointed this out in another video, my favorite restaurant, Greco's Pizza and Pasta. And I talked a bit about it in that other video. This is Good to Go. This is sort of a health food restaurant with lots of vegetarian options, or vegan if you're a vegan. And this is New Blends Smoothie Shop and Healthy Market. Art and Soul, that's new also. I mean, I don't know how long these places have been here. They might have been here for years for all I know. They weren't here last time I walked around and looked at things anyway. And that large residential building over there under construction is obviously new, since it's not finished yet. So I'm going to head over just to McIntyre Street, just for a block or two, before I head back over to Main Street, because in my other video I did walk right along here. So I thought I'd try and cover different ground this time. And Days Inn. That used to be called the Baywood Hotel. And there's the synagogue, the Sons of Jacob Synagogue, I believe it's called. It's looking pretty rough, but I'm pretty sure it's still operating. And there's Castle Street. This is McIntyre Street. And it's looking pretty quiet right now. Nights Inn. This is a motel that has changed names many times over the years. Kennedy Building, this office complex here. And up ahead is the old Empire Hotel, which is now no longer a hotel. It's the Empire Living Center now, which is a retirement home. And here's Fraser Street. Empire Terrace Suites, that's basically an extension of the Empire Living Center. Now, when I was a kid, me and my friends used to love goofing around and getting up to mischief inside this parking garage right here. We would ride our bikes up and down the ramps and run around and spit off of it and drop things on the sidewalk below. Just all kinds of nonsense. And I think for old time's sake, maybe I'll walk through it, because there is a pathway here that leads to Main Street. So as you can see, this would have been a fun place for kids on bikes to just barrel around and sometimes get chased away. Walking right into the sun here. And this artwork has been changed up a number of times. It didn't look like this last time I was walking through here, a few years ago. I think it gets redone every couple of years. And just like that, we are on Main Street. And I have done another video walking along Main Street. Well, I pointed out a lot of these businesses and what's new and what's old, and all kinds of changes that I've noticed and things that have stayed the same. The farm. This is good to see that this is still operating. I think it stands for Fashion Art Retail Market or something along those lines. And sadly, there are a lot of vacant spaces here along Main Street. This was once the healthy block of Main Street, where most of the more long-standing, successful businesses were located. But I think time has done its thing and things have changed. Because a lot of those long-standing, successful businesses are no longer operating. Pointed this out before, Waxman Records. A friend of mine owns that, but he's out of town in Vancouver on vacation, so I guess he has someone else minding the store. Here's Ferguson Street. So since I showed this in another video, I'm wondering if I should take a different route this time. Maybe I'll take Oak Street. So I've walked along McIntyre in another video, and here on Main, but I haven't walked along Oak, so let's do that. Admittedly, Oak Street is not as interesting as Main Street, but if you do want to see what there is to see on Main Street, just check out my other video. Oak Street was always regarded as the kind of sketchy street when I was growing up. People would joke about hookers on Oak Street and all that kind of stuff, but to be honest, I never even ever saw such a thing, ever. Maybe once, if I think hard about it, and I walked around these streets for countless hours growing up here and into my adulthood too. So that was just people just hyping up things to make them seem worse than they really were. And since we're on Oak Street, we can get a look at the North Bay Transit Terminal, which I didn't really get a good look at in any of my previous videos. I just sort of pointed it out from afar. So let's do that. So Oak Street is sort of like the backside of the buildings fronting onto Main Street. That's why it's not terribly interesting from a pedestrian standpoint. The next block up does have some businesses facing onto Oak Street though. So if there's any part of Oak Street that is somewhat interesting, it would be that one. Not so much here. This is what's interesting here, the bus terminal. All the bus routes sort of converge here before fanning out again. It's a setup pretty typical of a lot of smaller cities. There's an outdoor waiting area here, but if the weather gets crappy, then there is a building here with an indoor waiting area. And there's the vacant lot where a fire took place a couple years ago. I was just saying in my other video that that lot will probably remain vacant forever. That vacant lot will probably outlive us all. North Bay Transit and Para Bus Terminal. And over there you can see North Bay City Hall, that glass building. Now, this is where Oak Street becomes not such a great street to walk along because there's not really any proper sidewalks, even though it's right downtown. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cross the street, and then I'm going to end the video right over here. If I can cross the street. I'll just loop back over to Main Street. So I hope you enjoyed the walk starting from a suburban power center in the Tipo Terrace area, and then walking up to Algonquin Avenue and heading south along Algonquin Avenue into the older part of town and all the way downtown, walking along McIntyre Street and part of Main Street and part of Oak Street. So hope you enjoyed the walk. If you did, leave a comment below and like and share and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And be sure to hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of my videos. And if you'd like to support the channel, there are links in the description where you can do so via PayPal and via my merch store. And you can also find me on Instagram under KContinuum. So thanks for watching. And be sure to keep checking back because as always, I will continue.